Hi everyone, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Anna, and you're listening to We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, a podcast hosted by us, a married couple with an endless love for TV.
Whether you're looking for a new show to binge or wanting to revisit an old classic, let us be your guide through the infinite list of TV shows.
So come join us every Friday as we discuss the pilot for a TV show while also sharing personal stories that parallel the storylines.
We Judge a Show by Its Pilot, where your new favorite show is just one click away. Hello everyone, welcome back to our pod.
Welcome, hello, old listeners, new listeners, what's happening?
And we have recently gotten a major influx of new followers on Instagram, so if this is your first time listening to our podcast, first of all, thank you to everyone who has started to follow us on social media. We are so grateful and also very surprised. It has been a literal 400% increase on followers in the last week, maybe.
Or two, yeah.
Maybe a little bit more than a week, but yeah, we are so grateful. We aren't going anywhere, so if you're just now discovering this podcast and you're like, holy crap, they've been on for 2 years, and they're now on their 150th episode, I wonder how much longer they're going to be going on. We are lined up till December, so we have all of our themes planned, all of our shows planned. We don't have specific shows planned for October and December yet, but we have a really good idea of what we're going to do. Yep. So we aren't going anywhere, and we are very excited to do this episode because it is not only our 2-year podversary, but it is also our 150th episode.
Yes, it's kind of our bicentennial.
Yes.
Oh, wait, no, that's 200 years.
Nope. I agreed with you, then I immediately took it back.
I forget what 150 is. It's like, it's not sesquicentennial. It's something,
now that you put it in my brain, I'm gonna
look it up. Yeah, I forget what it's. There is a word for 150 anniversary. It's like quarter quell or...
Quarter quell.
That's the Hunger Game.
No, you got it.
Sesquicentennial.
There it is.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to be able to say
so
that.
It's our sesquicentennial episode, yes. 150. So, yeah. And that's, last year at this time we were hitting 200, but we were doing it twice a week.
Yeah.
And we
hit 100.
We hit 100. Sorry, I don't know what I said. 200.
We just woke up.
Yeah. But we were doing 2 episodes a week, which was crazy looking back. But this year, we decided to go to 1 episode a week, and we took March off because my work travel got insane in March. And so we took March off. So I actually feel really proud that we have still hit another 50 since last year. I think that's pretty decent. So it's on par.
Yeah, we've had a lot of fun. And while we are talking about our 150th episode, let's go down memory lane a little bit.
All right.
So we have been married now for about 8.5 years. We're going to be hitting 9 years in December.
Yep.
And we have talked so much about starting a podcast and trying to find something to talk about, and we originally just landed on like let's do a TV show podcast, but we originally were talking about doing like rewatch podcasts of like a show or like a series, but we were just like, when we were listening to other rewatch podcasts, we realized that the really popular ones, or the ones that were really popular at the time, involved the cast or the crew of said show, and they had all this inside information, and we're like, okay, well, we can't compete with that. So we weren't involved in these TV shows. So doing a rewatch podcast, we were much respect to those who fans who do rewatch podcasts. That takes a lot of dedication and a lot of patience. Something that we maybe don't have, But yeah, nothing but respect for the fans who do rewatch podcasts. We just don't have that ability because I feel like, personally, we just wouldn't have enough to talk about. We wouldn't be able to fill up a 45 minutes to an hour plus for each episode. And then Anna kind of had a light bulb kind of go off, and you were just like, what if we just kind of become like a guide for people that want to find a TV show? You know, there's so many TV shows out there. We live in an oversaturation of TV shows, an infinite list. And if you're like us, you are just, if you don't have a show that you're currently watching, you do a lot of channel surfing, a lot of flipping, a lot of trying to find a show. And so instead of doing a rewatch podcast, we're like, what if we just watch the first episode of these shows, or the pilot as they are called in the biz, and we kind of introduce these shows to people. And so then that was the original idea, which is what our podcast originally became. And then we were like, well, we need to fill in more time. What can we do that kind of will separate us from other podcasts? And then I don't remember which episode it was, but we just kind of started talking about
our
lives and stories that kind of parallel the storyline. If you've seen our tag or our bio, that's our kind of our hook, is that we tell personal stories that parallel the storyline. And then we were just off to the races, and we went from 35 minute episodes to an hour and 15, sometimes more, sometimes longer. And we were like, okay, this is it. This is the podcast. And 150 episodes later, here we are.
It's still our formula. And I always think it's funny when you're like, we're not going to have much to talk about. And an hour and 15 minutes later, you're like, okay, I need to edit.
Yeah.
You're always like so surprised. And I'm like, I think both of us are really good storytellers. But I also feel like you and I have very diverse kind of backgrounds in, you know, where we were raised, what our life experiences are, our kind of friend groups, our work experiences. So, you know, as each episode happens, I'm always just so surprised that we still have real stories to tell, you know, and, you know, maybe one day it'll evolve from what we have been doing. Who knows what year 3 will evolve into, but you know, when we were talking about this month and thinking of the questions, I was like, oh yeah, I have some stories for that.
Yeah.
That maybe I've told in part, but I don't think I've really delved into. Yeah. So I think it's going to still be fun in year 3 of our pod. So if you're listening, go back and download a few episodes, listen to some of the shows. But we keep finding new shows to watch. In fact, we're watching 2 new ones that I think we are going to put into the rotation of our themes. I got one of them, a thought process going, and then the other one, who knows where it'll fit in, but I dare you to go listen to some of our earlier episodes where I'm not going to say we didn't know what we were doing. We always knew what we were doing. It was just we hadn't figured it out yet, if that makes any sense. Like, it was like we hadn't fully figured out what our podcast was. And I haven't gone back and listened to them, but I remember when we first started our podcast, it takes, even when you have someone to record with, it was very nerve-wracking for me to just hit record and start talking. And now I have no issues with it at all. Like, it's so funny how it works that way. Mostly because, and I think I might have even said this on our year 1 anniversary when we were talking about the pod, or maybe on an episode, is your career is talking, but like shouting out directions.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you are a cook in a kitchen, a manager, and so you're always giving directions.
Not anymore.
And not anymore. We'll maybe talk about that one day. But I teach on the daily basis. I'm on team calls, teaching in classes, teaching professors. And so I talk a lot in my day-to-day. So this wasn't hard, but it was new to me in the sense that we were having a conversation and, you know, talking about a topic or topics, or, you know, a pilot, and saying what we thought, or, you know, kind of delving into that. So it was different for both of us. We both talk a lot in our day to day, but sitting down and like recording with microphones. It was new for both of us in that sense. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's go down memory lane a little bit.
Okay.
Are there any I mean, this could be from the last year, this can be from the last 2 years. It doesn't have to be something from 2026, but do you have any themes that pop out in your head that you remember fondly, or that you really liked, or that kind of stick out in your memory?
I really liked series finale month. I think we're
pretty genius. Yeah.
We actually discussed last night a possible theme for December, but I really do want us to go back to that.
Yeah.
Maybe we can use the theme I thought of in January, because that will actually fit as well.
That will not make more sense, but
yeah.
it'll still, like you said, it'll still fit the idea.
Yeah. I love that because we did because our show is about pilots, but for December, since it was end of year, we went back and watched an actual series finale of a show we had already done on the pod. So that was the caveat. I loved it because the shows that we did were shows that were very part of my existence. I mean, like my TV lore.
Yeah.
And I did love, we revisited those and looked back with a different eye of when I watched that finale, or we watched that finale live at the time.
Right. Yeah.
And, I think that's what's neat about having done this pod is we can go back and watch a pilot. We can go back and rewatch a series finale, and maybe we felt one way about it at the time, but looking at it with a different lens today, we may feel differently about it. Because, I mean, when going back to the very beginning, when we decided to do Three's Company, I had only had these warm, fuzzy feelings about Three's Company because of, Jack Tripper and Chrissy Snow and Janet and,
Mr. Roper. Yeah.
Mr. Roper. And then looking at that pilot, I was like, what the fresh hell is happening? I mean, it was just so shockingly terrible, and it did not hold up well over time, and
still funny, but
yes, but there was a lot of like sus discussions and topics and dialogue that you were like, whoa, that would not happen today.
Not at all.
And so you look back and you're like, wow, my 7-year-old self or 8-year-old self, that didn't hit, because that's not what I was really understanding at the time. Or in a series finale, as in December that we did, maybe I felt one way about a finale, and then over time, I've really dissected it and thought a little bit more deeply about it, and was like, I get it. I get how it fits. I did love your birthday month, the shows that we watched. So that was
that the reality?
The reality shows.
That was a fun month. Yeah.
It brought me back. I love The Challenge, The Hills. I mean, you introduced me to Jersey Shore. I mean, I knew of Jersey Shore, but we really started watching and, rewatching Family.
Juice.
Bug Juice. So that was fun. And going back to those, I love reality TV. We've talked a lot about that. And then I did also love my birthday month. There were some bangers in there. It was a little bit heavy, but it was also shows that really brought me back to different points of my life and TV life. And I really enjoyed those two. And I think this year again, I loved my birthday month and how I picked that for YouTube. And, I think some of the shows that we've done this year have also been really, really great and really fun. So what about you? What have been some shows or episodes or themes that you liked?
mean, obviously your birthday month this year was so much fun because we really so your birthday month. So if you didn't listen to those episodes in this past April 2026, Anna, instead of doing pilots for TV shows, we kind of decided to change it up, and we did our favorite YouTube shows, or your favorite YouTube shows. YouTube channels. Sorry, I always say shows. YouTube channels, and we did, Kara and Nate, Lauren Norris, Smosh, and Hot Ones.
Yeah.
And we really kind of broke away. Lauren Norris and Kara and Nate, we kind of sort of stuck with our formula, but with Hot Ones and Smosh, we completely did something completely different, and specifically the Hot Ones episode,
Yeah.
where we really I really liked the idea, and maybe we can start incorporating this into not every episode, but into more episodes, is we legitimately like interviewed each other and asked each other questions. And yes, we were doing it Hot One style, where we were progressively having hotter and hotter chicken wings. We had boneless wings, but I cooked. Yeah.
And we did do Da Bomb, and I nearly wanted to die.
We had to hit pause, and we had to regroup because we knew that was gonna happen. We knew that was gonna happen.
We actually had done this back during the pandemic,
Yeah.
so we thought it would be fun to revisit that. So that one was fun.
Yeah, and it was just a lot of fun asking each other questions and seeing how well or how not well we answered those questions while under the heat, while receiving the heat, or however you want to say it. One theme that probably the first real theme that I really took to was it wasn't a specific theme. It was just my first birthday month, where we did like Lost and Misfits, and I think we did Grimm, and we did like a bunch of like kind of Scream Queens. We did a bunch of like kind of maybe horror, sci-fi, mystery, which is like, those are like my favorite genres to watch. And Melrose Place, because I think that was when I was binging Melrose Place when you had introduced that show to me, and so I became like borderline obsessed with Melrose Place for a little while, and I still haven't gone back and finished the show. I really need to. And if you were like, what happened at the end of season 1, I could tell you exactly what happened at the end of season 1. That's how glued to this show that I was so glued to the show at that time. So I could easily go and start watching season 2 and just be good from there. But that was also the first month where we really started to gain listeners. And I don't know if it was a specific show, but that was when I really started to notice that like people were listening to our podcast. I think that's why I always kind of look back on that month so fondly, because not only was it my birthday month, and I got to pick all the shows, but I saw that I think that was also when we really started to get comfortable doing the podcast. We really were really sticking to the format and sticking to the theme of the podcast, and we were really starting to tell very personal stories, which the following month in November was when we did The Politician. That was when I told a very personal story. And I think it was, I don't remember which month it was, but it was when we did The Handmaid's Tale, where you told a very personal story.
Oh, Sex Lives of College Girls.
Was it Sex Lives of College Girls?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And we were just very, I think that was really the first time. Those episodes stick out to me because those were the first time where we really were vulnerable and really were very unfiltered and talked about something that does not make us feel comfortable. It probably didn't make our listeners feel comfortable, but just knowing that we were brave enough to tell those stories and had the maturity, I guess, to tell those stories, and it really, those episodes really stick out in my brain because we were like, we really kind of, we went there, and it was just, we decided to go there, and just to kind of wanted to speak up for people who have dealt with mental health, who have maybe lost someone to suicide or were sexually assaulted. They were rough episodes, and we definitely kind of, when we hit stop and stopped recording, we really needed to. Luckily, having you and me do this podcast, we are so supportive of each other, and we're always there for each other. So it was really nice when we stopped recording to kind of be there for each other, and just to kind of remind us that it really reminded both of us that like we are in this together, not just our podcast, but in life. And it's just really nice. One of my favorite memories, I'm going to kind of jump to something.
I have no idea what he's about to say.
One of my favorite memories, because this is just 100% what it is like having a conversation with Anna sometimes.
Uh-oh.
Where I had to cut this from the episode because I was like, it was so out of left field, but that is my boo. She can't help it.
I know.
So we were fairly new to podcasting. This was one of our, maybe our first, not our first month, maybe like our second month or third month. I don't remember. I have to go back and see what episode it was, but I had to cut.
I'm looking.
I had to cut it from the episode. So we watched the pilot for Little House on the Prairie. I know there's a new one coming out, so we're of course talking about the original show from the 70s. And I had never watched the show. Anna used to watch it regularly when she was a kid, and I was like, we were still trying to figure out like what to talk about, and we were trying to fill in the minutes. And so I was like, is there an episode? I worded it exactly like, what was your favorite episode? Or what was an episode that stuck out to you? And so I think with Anna, when I say, what is your favorite? She doesn't think, what is my favorite? She thinks, what do I remember? What is the most memorable? Sometimes not necessarily your favorite.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
And that's kind of where your brain goes sometimes. And she proceeds to tell the story of Little House on the Prairie. I'm not going to go into too much detail because it's not a funny topic. It's not a funny topic at all.
You're just
I'm not making light. I am not making light of the topic of conversation. But when I say, what was your favorite episode? She says, what was the character's name?
It was Albert was the brother, and it was his little girlfriend.
So one of the characters, she was like, oh, well, an episode that really sticks out to me. When I say, what's your favorite episode? And she says it like, well, an episode that really sticks out to me was an episode where one of the characters was being sexually assaulted by a townsperson who wore a clown mask. And I was just like, I don't know how to have that conversation. We were so new to podcasting that I was like, now we could have that conversation.
Yeah.
It wouldn't bother me at all. But like,
that was episode 9, but I don't know if our episodes are numbered like correctly at the very beginning, because I remember you had to upload twice or something.
So that would have been the first episode of our second month.
Yes, it was July. Yeah.
So once
So it was
again,
like maybe our fifth episode.
I don't think the plot was funny. I don't think that the story was funny. It was just I didn't know how to respond to it. Now, like I said, I wouldn't have a problem with it at all. I'd be like, let's talk about that. But like Red Link.
Exactly. Let's talk about that. But it's crazy in the sense that when you asked me that, a lot of young girls, when a lot of people talk about clowns and why they hate clowns, and they'll say stuff like Poltergeist or It, from the 70s, and then Poltergeist from the 80s. My true, real disdain for clowns comes from that episode of Little House on the Prairie. And that's why I hate saying memorable, or why I remember it a lot, was because the townsperson was wearing a clown mask.
Yeah.
And literally the show ends, or kind of one of the scene ends, with a focus on that mask. And I just remember going, as like a 7 or 8 year old, going, I thought clowns were supposed to be funny and nice, and like it was bad. And so that truly stuck with me. Like, obviously I'm in my 50s. Like, that is why I do not like clowns, was because that episode traumatized me about clowns. And so telling that story and talking about the episode, Jeff is just sitting across from me going, oh my God. And here we are doing a light and funny podcast, and Anna goes right hardcore into this really hard topic. And, we're laughing about it now, but only because like I went off the rails and Jeff was like, I've got to cut all this out, because that's obviously not what the episode that time was about, and not our, we weren't talking about sexual assault at the time. So yeah, I remember that you were like, babe, I've got to cut all that out. Like, you just went off the rails.
Yeah.
So.
And I mean, like, it is an important topic to talk about, and we are not afraid to talk about such controversial topics today. But our 9th episode, I was just like, I don't know if we can have this conversation. And it was just really interesting how, and it also just kind of makes me think of how I don't know if we were afraid to have those conversations in the beginning. We just didn't know if we wanted to be like that podcast that talked about these heavy topics. And eventually we reached a point where we were like, let's just talk about it.
Yeah. And I think that that's what's really interesting, kind of how TV shows have evolved over time, because I just did talk about Three's Company and a lot of the taboos that were there. And even, like on that episode of the Three's Company pod that we did, I did remember as a child just wondering why two girls and a guy couldn't live together
without lying.
And they couldn't just be friends like that. I remember thinking that as like a 7-8-year-old. And now, you have, what is it, New Girl, and, all the shows that have like, couples that are
co-ed roommates.
Co-ed roommates that are not married. And, again, and a lot of heavy topics that are hit that were taboo in the 70s or 80s, divorce and single moms or, gay couples and things like that you just did not talk about and that were not acceptable. And now it is part of, our society and our culture to put it on the TV. And, you can make the choice not to watch it if you don't want to watch it, or watch it if you want to. And I think that's what's also fun is we talk not just on this podcast, but we talk a lot with our friends about the shows, and we are always hearing ideas from our friends about new shows to watch, whether we like them or don't like them, and continue watching. So I think that those are some of the lessons that we've learned that you were just talking about. Was like back in 2024, episode 9, maybe we didn't feel strong enough to talk about it. But as we kept doing this and felt like, well, we have a podcast, why not talk about it? There are people out there talking about all kinds of stuff, so we can talk about it. And I think TV is that thing that connects us. We all have our tablets or our phones or our real TVs in our living rooms or bedrooms, and I think we're all watching shows and movies and things like that bring us together and bring a different culture into our lives. So
Yeah, I just think it's important that people listening, we do want you to sit down and have a good time and have a conversation with us, but we also want you to know that if you are going through something, if there is something that you're dealing with that, maybe other people don't want to talk about, we just want to remind you that like you're not alone, and that if you just want to turn your brain off and listen to us tell funny stories or something like that, then you can. And then there are some times where we tell serious stories, and you can kind of understand that, like, oh, maybe some people are listening and they're like, oh, I went through that, or I know someone who went through that, and maybe you know someone who went through that, and now maybe you have a better understanding because we told a story that was very difficult for us to tell. And I just feel like I really wanted to bring up the Little House on the Prairie story because I cut it from the episode, and we've never really talked about it before, I don't think. I know I've told the story before to other people, like not on the podcast, just like in life, because it's the first real thing that I cut from an episode. So like, I that was really also how I learned how to edit. So it was because I was really just releasing full episodes unedited because I didn't really know how to edit at the time,
and you had to learn,
and I had to learn because of that episode, because I was just like, maybe we shouldn't have that conversation. But yeah, so I really wanted to talk about that. So I really just kind of wanted to open up, and also just to show how far we've come as podcasters, not just as a podcast, but as podcasters, and how comfortable we are talking about topics that maybe aren't that comfortable to talk about. So that's why I brought that up. But yeah, I do, kind of to move away from that to talk about something else. I do remember the first series finale month we did, when we did the Wonder Years, and I was in the middle of telling the plot summary and I just started crying.
Oh, yeah.
And it hit me like I was not expecting it. I had kind of left it was the closing quote from the Wonder Years series finale, where he talks about, like, one day you're in diapers and the next day you're gone. Like it's like just kind of talking about how fast life moves and how fast our lives go. And it really just, maybe it was being 40 and just kind of being at midlife and realizing that, it's all going to happen to all of us. I don't know. But yeah, I just started crying and I was not expecting that. That's probably a time where, I didn't cut it. That was when I was comfortable enough kind of showing my emotions and talking, maybe in a little sillier way, but yeah, that always sticks out in my brain because I was just like, I just started crying. Yeah, so I think, do you have anything else you want to talk about memory lane wise?
No, I think we talked a lot, but
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to year 3, and
Absolutely.
We have some good themes coming up, some good shows coming up, like new ones, the ones that we've continued watching or that we can't wait for more, and some that have ended.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've got a lot coming. So keep listening, tell your friends, make posts, reposts, and thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for your support. We are so extremely grateful. Okay, so for the 150th episode of all the shows that we could do, I can't believe we're doing this one. It just kind of happened to fall on our 150th. There isn't a specific reason why we're doing this for 150th. This just fits the theme for this month. So in the month of June, our theme is corporate workplace shows. Maybe they're not exclusively set at the workplace, but they kind of are involved in corporate America.
Yeah.
And I think most of them are. I think maybe this episode. So today we're doing Workaholics, a sitcom, technically a sitcom from Comedy Central. It was prominent in the 2010s, and it's still somewhat prominent now because the three main actors, creators, they still have a podcast, and they're still doing they're doing like live shows, and it's a show that I watched from beginning to end, and I'm really excited to talk about. But before we do anything, Anna's going to give us some episode and series information.
Workaholics, piss and Workaholics was an American sitcom that originally aired on Comedy Central from April 6, 2011 to March 15, 2017. The series ran for 7 seasons and has a total of 86 episodes. The series was created by Blake Anderson, Adam Devine, Anders Holm, Kyle Newacek, Connor Pritchard, and Dominic Russo. The pilot was written by all the creators and was directed by Newacek. Workaholics centers around 3 best friends who all work as telemarketers at the fictional telemarketer. The series stars Anderson, Devine, and Holm, all playing exaggerated versions of themselves. Blake Anderson plays the sensitive and eccentric Blake Henderson. Adam Devine plays the chaotic, melodramatic Adam DeMamp. Anders Holm plays the neurotic, somewhat responsible Anders Holmvik. Recurring cast includes Jillian Bell as Jillian Belk, the awkward yet loyal office assistant. Mary Beth Monroe as Alice Murphy, the trio sarcastic and ruthless manager of telemarketer. Eric Griffin as Montez Walker, a fellow telemarketer that is unnecessarily competitive with the trio. And Kyle Newacek plays Carl Hevacek, the trio's dim-witted drug dealer and Blake's good friend. The series had a rough start, receiving mixed reviews during season 1. Critics and audiences had trouble finding any of the characters likable or relatable. It wasn't until season 2 that everyone started coming around to the series, and it became one of Comedy Central's top original shows. Workaholics serves as a stepping stone for the cast, particularly Adam Devine, who I love and starred in Pitch Perfect 2 with, and Jillian Bell. Devine would go on to star in the hit comedy films Pitch Perfect and Pitch Perfect 2, which made Workaholics even more popular. Bell would go on to star in films such as 22 Jump Street, the Goosebump movies, Rough Night, and Brittany Runs a Marathon. And Anders Holm was also in one of my favorites, How to Be Single, with Dakota Johnson and
Leslie Mann.
Leslie Mann
Wilson.
And Rebel Wilson, who was also in Pitch Perfect.
And was also in Workaholics.
Yeah, so I mean that their little universe. I mean, and that's what I also love about seeing all these shows is that you know them from other shows or movies, and you can currently watch Workaholics on Paramount Plus.
Yeah, what's cool about Workaholics is kind of their history. So Blake Anderson and Kyle Newacek grew up together in the Bay Area. They've known each other since they were like kids. And then Adam Devine and Blake met at, I think it was Orange County Community College. I think that's what it's called. I think that's what it's called. And then they met there, and then they somehow connected with Anders and Kyle, and then the four of them formed Mail Order Comedy, which they originally were YouTubers, kind of like in the early days of YouTube. And then that somehow led to them being writers for Comedy Central, which led to them getting their own show. So I just think that whole kind of process is really cool. And the Workaholics house, they were actually living in that house. That was actually their house. So,
oh, wow. Like their real house?
Like their real house that they lived in, because they were given such a small budget. The way Adam Devine kind of told the story was that they were given such a small budget for season 1. They were just like, we don't know. They were all complete amateurs. They didn't know what they were doing. So they were just like, well, just in case this show doesn't last, let's save as much money as we can. Let's just film at the house that we live in, because it's supposed to be, they live in I don't want to say a flop house, but they live in this is what a 3 post-college age boys are supposed to be living in. This is the house we live in.
And working as telemarketers, right. Which I'm sure they were not making a lot of money.
So I know neither one of us worked as telemarketers, but you have a story with Cutco?
Yes. So back in college, and my dad was still alive, so this had to have been, I want to say, the summer of 89, because the summer of 88 was when I went to live with my sister in Euless for that summer. Shout out to Nick Peroni if you're listening. So the summer of 89, I was living at home and I didn't have a job. And I remember getting this letter, probably right when I got back from college. And it was like, oh, we're looking for salespeople. And if you come to this info session, you will find out more. And the info session was in Metairie, Louisiana. And I lived in New Orleans on the West Bank. So on the other side of the river of New Orleans. So not the East Bank, close to Metairie. So my parents drove me. I remember we were in my dad's truck, and my dad and my mom drove me because I did not have a car. And so we drove over, and I think were going to wait for me just in the parking lot, because that's just what my parents did at the time. And I went into this info session, and there were a lot of college age kids my age, 19, 20 years old. And it was probably 9 o'clock in the morning, and we sit down, and there's paperwork on each of our little desks, and it was all about the Cutco knives. And the guy starts talking about what Cutco is, and there are these knives, and they're awesome. And I think back in the day, there used to be commercials about Cutco.
Oh, yeah, it was cutting the penny in half.
Yeah, cutting that or the piece of paper, it would just slice the paper and it would just cleanly cut. Or they would show a tomato, how housewives don't know how to cut tomatoes or have bad knives, and with our knives you can cut it beautifully. It was crazy. And so for an hour and a half or so, this guy is talking about knives and selling, and that we would get commissions, and we could use our parents' friends and our friends' parents and go to their houses and walk your neighborhoods. Because this was still at a time, I remember in elementary school when I would walk to people's houses to sell boxes of chocolate or M&Ms. And, so I just was going, obviously I was at the time 20 years old, going, I am not walking around to people's houses. It's I'm too old for that. And, and a lot of my parents' friends were older, so I was just they don't need knives. So these are the thoughts that are all running in my head. I'm like, how am I going to make money off of this? Much less go door to door. And and you only got paid. This was one of my first lessons in commission, even though my mom had sold Tupperware and Avon home parties. This was a job that was strictly commission based. We wouldn't be getting any kind of salary or I mean hourly wage. And so I was so unless I actually sell something, I am not making any money. And I was I need some sort of real job that I know I'm going to be getting a paycheck from. And so I remember at like 11 o'clock, we were breaking for lunch. I don't know if we were supposed to go somewhere or they were providing lunch. And the guy goes, all right, so we're going to break here in just a little bit for lunch. We have like one more little session before our noon break. So if you don't think you are interested in this, you could just go ahead and leave now. I got up. I think I was the only one who got up and walked out. And I remember coming down and my dad was like, what's happened? Like, we weren't expecting you until like 2 o'clock or something. Yeah. Like they were just sitting out, hanging out. Because again, this was before cell phones and pagers. So, there was no way for me to contact my parents. And I walked out and I got in the truck and I remember telling them like what it was. And even my dad was very like sus, like they want like 20-year-old girls to go out and sell knives. Like what? And so, that was my kind of not so much telemarketer, but like multi-level marketing sales. And again, I don't even remember what it was, but actually I know Cutco still exists because a friend of mine from college, her daughter still sold Cutco from high school all the way until college. So I know. And then didn't your stepbrother Wes sell Cutco?
I think that was I want to say that was his gig during college. Yeah. Was selling Cutco. I think we had our own Cutco set in our house. Sure. And he like practiced his pitches with my parents and stuff like that. And his like, because you're given I'm assuming you're given like a script. And you kind of have to memorize it. But I almost became a telemarketer, so it was a similar thing. So there was this thing called, I think it was called West Communications, and I wasn't going to be calling people. I was going to be the person that when you like call this toll-free number and order blah 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 right now, I was going to be the person that you call to order stuff. And so we got these, they were handing out these flyers in school at Woodlawn where I went to high school, and me and Tyler were like, okay, I just got in my car, I just gotten my license, and I'd gotten my sister's old car, and I needed a job. And so I was just like, okay, well, maybe I can go. I think I was in 11th grade, and Tyler and I went and applied at West Communications. They basically would just hire, you were hired like on the spot. It was just like one of those kind of places because you needed as many people as possible, I'm sure. And I remember getting the job, getting interviewed, getting the job, and I remember I had to fill out so much paperwork. That is where I learned my social security number by heart. That was because I had to write it so many times on so many different papers, and I remember like filling all of that out. And I remember one of my friends that I went to school with that also worked at West kind of came up to me and was just like, don't work here. And I was just like, what do you mean? They were just like, don't. They were like because I think the draw was they were like, because at the time minimum wage was $5.15 an hour, and they were like, oh, like we're gonna pay you like $8 an hour, which to a 16, 17-year-old is like, I'm gonna be a millionaire, right? And I could buy a house. I don't know if that's really what I thought, but I was just like $8 an hour. I was like, holy crap, that's a lot of money for me.
Well, that in that time it probably was. Yeah.
And she came up to me and she was just like, you're not going to be getting paid $8 an hour. You're going to be getting paid minimum wage, but you have to work so many hours. They don't care that you're a minor. They're going to work you 40 plus hours a week, and they're going to figure out a way to make that legal. Because back then there was, I guess you can get away with a lot more with the lack of technology, even in 2000, 2001. And I remember just kind of just being, she was like, go work at McDonald's or go work at a fast food place because or go like bus tables somewhere because like you'll make more money and you're going to enjoy that more. She was like, this job is awful. She was like, I'm doing this because she was like, I'm kind of stuck here. So it was just kind of like she had kind of reached this point. You had to work. I forgot what the hook was, but it was like, and then I remember later that day, or maybe like right after that, I started filling out more paperwork, and I started. I think because we were teenagers, they were like, just sign this. And we're like, okay, like we weren't like reading anything.
Oh yeah.
And I remember, like, I think it was either something I'd already signed or that I was about to sign. And I really read it, and it was like, your base pay is going to be $5.15 an hour. If you work this many hours and you accept this many calls, you will get a bonus per hour, which can equal to up to $8 an hour. I'm like, oh, got it. I was like, that's where they get you.
Yeah.
And I think my friend quit that job soon after, because I remember her working at Burger King. So, I mean, like, I don't think she lasted that long. I had other friends that went and worked there. I don't think they lasted very long either, because they kind of fell for the scam as well. But yeah, so I almost became a telemarketer. I came very close, and it is, I'm not going to say it's a scam because I've never actually been a telemarketer, but like it is so much based on, because I had friends that were actual telemarketers, and it is so much based on, you have to, if you don't make this many sales or if you don't make this many calls, and you have to follow a script, you have to follow the exact thing. If you go off script, like they monitor all of your calls. Like if you go off script, they'll just fire you. I mean, like if you don't make a certain amount of sales in a certain amount of time, they'll just fire you. Like, and I mean,
and that's very typical in sales.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, I talk about like YouTubers all the time,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of obsessed with like, I wonder how much money they make.
Right.
Because, you know, I look at their subscribers, and then I do the Google search on like, how much a month do these YouTubers make? Because they have to keep selling. They have to keep getting brand deals. They have to keep doing ads. They have to keep getting likes and comments. And that's why, you know, again, love you, Lauren, love you, Keegan, Karen, Nate, and whoever else we watch. You know, there are some channels that just crank the money because they're so out there. But then a lot of these YouTubers that, you know, are struggling to get the likes and comments, you're just like, how do you survive? Because, like I said, that was my first lesson in knowing about a base salary versus commission pay.
Right.
And kind of like your experience. I mean, a lot of like, if you look on Indeed or LinkedIn or any job posting websites, what I love is a lot of times it'll say the salary range is 50,000 to up to 95,000. And I'm like, that's a pretty wide range of pay.
Yeah.
You call, you interview, you maybe get the job, and they're like, okay, your salary is going to be 50K. And you're like, well, why isn't it the 90K? You know, like, did you just put the 90K to just get me to apply? And that, I will say, that is one thing that I really hate about job postings. Like, I think it should be, at a minimum, this will be your pay.
Right.
They're, you know, again, I guess they're going, it might be this, depending on your experience, but I don't want to apply for a job that just says, you know, you're going to make this much, and, you know, you might make this much.
Right.
And then they lowball you, you know, and or try to deceive you in some way in the wording, like your experience, particularly with, you know, teens and, you know, young adults that, you know, don't really know to look for those things.
Right.
So, yeah.
All right, let's get into this plot summary.
Let's do it.
Okay. So I have a pretty basic plot summary. It's a 22-minute episode, but there are a few things that I'm going to that aren't in the plot summary that I'm going to kind of talk about just from my memory. So Workaholics pilot summary. We open to our trio, which is what we refer to the three main characters. They're having a party at their house. Anders comes out and he's just like, hey, you remember that girl that I was talking to? Well, she just texted me, and we started going back and forth, and she sent me a nude, I guess you would say. It was a close-up of her nipple. And so Blake and Adam are just like, oh, well, this is just how sexting goes. She sends you a nipple, you send her a dick pic, and then before you know it, y'all are meeting up and y'all are hooking up. And so they kind of convince Anders to go and take a dick pic. And so he goes and takes a dick pic, comes back out, sends it to her, and then you suddenly hear everyone else's phone go off. So Adam and Blake had used the phone of one of their friends and to kind of trick Anders into sending a dick pic. So then they sent Anders' dick pic to everybody. And it wasn't a girl nipple. It was a close-up of Adam's nipple, which you called out of the gate.
I was like, when they showed it, I was like, that looks like a guy's nipple.
First of all, men nips and women nips don't look the same. So
They
like
do not.
you can kind of know when it's a guy's nipple, which was really funny. That whole bit was just really funny. So they did all that. They messed with Anders, and that was kind of the cold open, just to kind of give you the vibe of what this show is going to be. It's very bro-y, it's very silly, very kind of absurdist humor a little bit. And so we now see the trio. They work as telemarketers at Telemarcorp, and Jillian Bell, she comes in and reminds them that they are taking their company-wide drug test today. Well, the night before, Adam and Blake are regular pot smokers, but I think Anders kind of isn't. I think he mostly just drinks, but they had smoked a blunt the night before, and so they are all kind of freaking out, even though they were given this notice like 2 months ahead of time, probably to let everyone know that, like, hey, clean your system out. So Anders is like, hey, I actually knew about this drug test, and I got some clean pee, but because Blake and Adam had pranked Anders, he was like, okay, I'm gonna get y'all back. If y'all want this pee, he just stands up and takes a piece of the roof, a piece of the ceiling, and is like, chew on this ceiling. And so they start doing it. It was so funny. They were like coughing up dust, and
it was disgusting.
It was so fun. It was very disgusting. It was very funny, and he was just like, okay, I got you guys. Like, this isn't pee, this is Gatorade. I was just getting you guys back. He was like, but he takes out another container, and he's just like, but here is the actual clean pee. And so Adam assumes that he's pranking him again, so he knocks it out of Anders' hand. The pee goes all over Anders'
face. It's disgusting.
And he was just like, no, that was actually real pee. I was just messing with you guys. I was going to share it with you. So now they are in trouble because they have to take this drug test, and they don't have any clean pee. So the first thing they do is they try and get some. So I had to look it up. I didn't fully know what it was, I guess, but they try and get some. They try to use niacin, which is a water-soluble vitamin, and I guess it's supposed to make you pee a lot, like if you take a Diurex or an Azos or something like that. But the thing is that when you take a lot of niacin, if you take enough of it, it turns your face red. And so they spend most of the episode with patchy skin the whole time because they had taken a bunch of niacin, which also, the reality is that if you want to, you can't really, there are all these kind of myths and things that you hear about. This is how you pass a urine test. There really is no real way to cheat a urine test. We have found out over the years. The only thing you can really do is just not do drugs. That's really the only way you can.
For an extended amount of time,
right.
If you are a heavy drug user, I would assume that
right.
It stays in you.
Because the synthetic urine doesn't really work anymore, as far as I've been told. This synthetic urine, it's all about like your body temperature and like how how warm it is. And so if you're just putting cold pee into a cup, the people are like, this is old pee. Like this isn't fresh out of the bladder. So they're trying to figure out like how can they get some clean pee. Because they're like, nowadays, smoking weed is so common, the only people young enough that aren't smoking weed are like middle schoolers. So they get the idea to go to a middle school and ask some kids for some pee. But of course, this one kid is like, give me something that I can't, give me something that I don't have. And so they're like, oh, here's some CDs, here's some porn. And he's just like, I have an iPod shuffle. It has all of this on it. Like, I don't need any of that. And so I forgot what they tried. Oh, they tried to bribe with Ninja Stars. I think that's what it was. And they try to make the trade, but then they end up breaking the bag of pee, so then they don't have the clean piss. And so they're basically they've kind of given up, and they're just like, let's just go back to work and accept that we're going to fail this drug test, and maybe we can just start looking for new jobs. And so when they go back to earlier in the episode, they had gone back to the house to get niacin from Carl, their drug dealer, who hangs out at their house while they're not home for some reason. And Carl is watching Die Hard. And so that gives Blake the idea. So Blake had already taken his drug test, and he tells Anders and Blake to kind of like, go take your drug test, but take as long as you can. Like, stall, do as much as you can to take as long as you can. So Blake gets the idea. He hops through the air vents while quoting Die Hard, which was really funny. And I'm not going to lie, a really smart idea.
It really was.
I mean, like, if you really want to, instead of trying to pass the drug test, why not just make everyone else fail the drug test? So what are you going to do? Fire the entire building? Like, that's impossible. You can't do that. And so he sneaks into the supply room, the supply closet where all the urine is being stored, and he proceeds to pee in all of the cups. So then everyone fails their drug test, and the list of drugs that Alice goes off on was so funny. Like Dayquil and NyQuil. I don't understand. Why would you take those at once? Birth control.
That one was the funniest one that I like just busted out laughing.
And so the urine
and everyone tested for those,
right?
Like everyone,
so like everyone tested for marijuana, like cocaine, methamphetamines, barbiturates, benzos, Dayquil, NyQuil, birth control. It was so like the list of things that Blake has in his urine is insane, but adds to the humor, obviously. And then, of course, Alice is like, I don't take birth control because I can't have kids. Thanks for bringing that up. You know, it was just like
so good.
And it was so funny. And so the urinalysis guy is released because he, his as far as Alice is their boss. Alice sees it. The test was defunct and is invalid. And so she's just like, okay, the urine tests are now considered invalid. We're not considering those. But they will be doing a hair follicle drug test, which there is no cheating that one if you can cheat a urine test at all. So then the trio is kind of right back to where they started from, and that's where the episode ends. But there's the what's it called when it's like the kind of the epilogue, like the end of the show, the final scene of the show, like during the credits.
Oh,
crawler or something like that.
Yeah.
The end of episode crawl is that Adam comes back with like a pigtail, and he had cut off a girl's pigtail in trade for the ninja stars.
Yes.
So he was just like, okay, we have our hair. And so that's the end of the episode. The show is so funny, and I mean it's a really great kind of start to a show because they don't hold back. They get right into, like we said, the piss and shit. And it was just a great start to a show to where you're like, okay, this is the show I'm going to be watching. If you can't get into it from this episode, it only gets crazier and wackier. My favorite episode, and it's an episode that I've gone back and rewatched so many times. And if you're going to watch any episode of Workaholics, I would really wish I would have looked up the name of the episode first, but it's the episode where the trio, they get really intoxicated and they drunk dial Alice, their manager.
Oh, okay.
And basically just like, I hate you, you're a bad manager. And Adam is just like, it's crazy how much you want me. And like, and then Blake just kind of goes off the rails and just like, I hate you. Like, just kind of like this really funny sequence of them just leaving message after message to Alice. They wake up the next day, realize what they had done, and they're like, okay, we got to get to the office soon and delete Alice's messages. And so they get up and realize they're still drunk. And so they're like, okay, well, we're going to crash soon. So they have to stay the right amount of drunk while trying to get back to the office. And it's just so funny because like at one point, like they realize that Andres can't drive. So like, let's take the bus. And Adam's like, I'm going to get on my rollerblades. And like, it is just such a funny episode. It's so chaotic. It kind of just really represents the whole show so well, of it being so chaotic, so absurd, so ridiculous, but so funny at the same time. It's also a great episode for Jillian, where she really gets to shine, and she's like one of my I mean, I love Jillian Bell. She's so effortlessly funny. I think 22 Jump Street and Rough Night are great examples of just how effortlessly funny she is.
Oh,
and
gosh,
just like
she's amazing.
how someone can just exist and they are hilarious. Like she's just one of those people. So I mean, like, this is such a great show. If the show isn't your thing, I completely understand. I'm not going to say the show is a preferred taste, because that makes it sound like I'm being pretentious. I don't think this show is anything, I'm not going to say anything special, but like anything like art high art or like high concept. It's very turn your brain off and just have a good time.
Well, I think it's also kind of, I don't want to say like a great example of how TV has changed over time. Because
it is, yeah.
because as I was saying in our beginning part of our pod today, like any kind of drug use in like the 70s or the 80s was very glamorized.
Yeah.
Like it was sexy and you were rich, and there might have shown like drug dealers and stuff like that. But this really shows like guys that are just living at home, smoking dope, drinking, and making it funny, taking birth control, Dayquil, NyQuil. And I don't want to say making light of that, but it's making it just part of, there are probably lots of guys that live together smoking dope and whatever.
Well, it's also kind of a leap from, I would say, maybe like later in the 80s and the 90s where drug use in TV shows was always like a message of the week.
Oh, yeah.
It was always like in cigarettes and alcohol, it was always like, if you do this, your life's going to go down the drain. And they had like the PSA before or after the episode where it's like, if you or anyone you know, it was always like that. And I think once we kind of got into like the 2010s and on, it was like, I don't necessarily think it was glamorized like you're saying, but I think it was just kind of shown like, this is what people do.
Yeah. Yes, that.
This is what people do. And a lot of them have normal lives and they lead regular lives. And we're not saying that you should smoke pot. We're not saying that you should drink or do drugs. But there are people out there that do this, and then they just lead normal lives.
Right.
They're functioning alcoholics or functioning drug users. Once again, not glamorizing it or promoting it, but just kind of saying this is how it is. And, sometimes I think with the show maybe like Euphoria, which kind of shows like the dark side of it, or other shows that kind of make light of it, it just kind of depends on the content. But yeah, TV has, as we talk about our, all of our 150 episodes and Three's Company, Little House on the Prairie, Beverly Hills 90210, which was very topic of message of the week, Degrassi, The Next Generation, which was kind of the same thing. Like, oh, you do drugs, you're throwing your life away. Like that kind of whole attitude, which, it may be the case for a lot of people. The case for a lot of people. But yeah, we've come a long way. Not just in TV, but for our podcast. Happy 150th episode. Happy 2-year podversary.
Happy 2-year podversary and our almost meetiversary.
Yep.
You and I met 10 years ago this coming week.
June
9th and 16th.
June 16th was when we officially met in person.
Yeah.
June 9th was when we started chatting on OkCupid.
Chattering on OkCupid. What's up?
OkCupid, sponsor us.
Yes, sponsor us. We're a real life success story.
That's true. Yeah, but we're not a love channel. We're not a romance channel.
We're not a romance channel relationship.
We just are in love with each other and we record and look and stare at each other.
Yes.
I'm
looking into his eyes.
Oh my God, lovingly.
All
right, that wraps up this episode. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for listening. We are 2 years strong, 150 episodes in the bank. And thank you for everyone who has just started following us. Once again, we are so grateful. We went from, I'm not even kidding, we went from 43 followers to we are now at 420 followers, which is funny, 420,
10
Workaholics.
Oh my God.
I just checked, we're at 420 right now.
Let me look.
So just the fact that, 420 followers may not seem like a lot to some people or to a lot of people, but to us, the fact that we've had this influx in the last week or so is incredible for us. So if you are listening,
we're at 421.
Hell yeah. But we were at 420 while we were doing the episode, which I thought was very convenient because we're doing Workaholics. So it's all about weed.
Yeah, we just got it.
So yeah, if this is your first time listening, thanks for tuning in. And if you haven't already, follow us on Instagram at We Judge Pilot Pod. We're also on Facebook and Threads. Threads, we're not really doing a lot on there, but just it's there. So if you want to follow us on there, if you don't use Instagram or Facebook, I know a lot of people don't really like Facebook anymore. We're definitely not on X, so don't worry about that. But yeah, follow us, and if you haven't already, follow us on one of those platforms, We Judge Pilot Pod, and you can. Sorry, I kind of went off script there for a second. You can follow us on Instagram. Yeah, leave us a comment, suggest a show for us to watch, or leave some emojis in the comments. What you got?
I have the camera and then the eggplant to represent the dick pic. The cigarette, the toilet, the cup, the party hat, fireworks, water to represent urine, phone, the stars, the hair with the scissors haircut, and then the doctor kind of representing the lab person.
Gotcha.
All right. Well, we are going to head out, but we'll talk to you soon. Thanks for listening.